GameMasters here, covering the topic of kobolds found within Mordenkainen Presents Monsters of the Multiverse. So, first things first, we can play as monsters now. Well, we always could. I mean, I've let my players do that for years. But now we can, and it's 100% official and legit from Wizards of the Coast. Following the new formula for ability score increases, we can pick one score and increase it by 2, and another score and increase it by 1, or we can pick 3 different scores and increase them by 1 each. I contend that this could be applied to any given monster, along with some additional tweaks, and make them fully playable, aside from the 30 or so official ones found here in Monsters of the Multiverse. Second up, Kobolds show up in both the Fantastical Races section. This is the section that has the official monster races that you can now play as well as in the Bestiary, the section of monsters your players will battle against. And today we are going to dive into both and compare them, and then compare them again. You'll see what I mean. Playable kobolds in the Monsters of the Multiverse are, as they always have been, draconic, and it points out that they are the smallest of these draconic-type creatures. Their description tells tales of some kobolds living to serve dragons, while others know too well the dangers of dragons and will actually help others to defend their homes from these dragons. These are the following racial traits. You are humanoid, you are small, and your walking speed is 30 feet. You have dark vision. As a bonus action, you can use Draconic Cry. You let out a cry, and you and your allies will gain advantage on attack rolls against enemies that would have heard your cry. Now, those that know kobolds know that they have an ability called Pack Tactics. Works along a very similar line. Of course, in Pack Tactics, it only gives that advantage to other kobolds in range. You also have Kobold Legacy, which allows you to pick one of the following. Craftiness. You have proficiency in one of the following: Arcana, Investigation, Medicine, Sleight of Hand, or Survival. Defiance. You have advantage on saving throws to avoid or end the frightened condition on yourself. Draconic Sorcery. You know one cantrip from the Sorcerer spell list. Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma is your spellcasting ability for that cantrip, which you choose when you select this race. And that might be the stat that you want to use to up your ability score in. Now, this is cool and all, and the information presented is quite generic, which really allows for customization of your character as opposed to a boilerplate template. Let's compare that fantastical kobold to the ones found in the Bestiary. There are actually 3 types of kobolds. Dare we say subclasses? You know, something Wizards avoided in Strixhaven: A Curriculum of Chaos? I'm going to use the term subclasses. You have Kobold Dragon Shield, Kobbold Inventor, and Kobold Scale Sorcerer. First, I want to look at the Kobold Dragon Shield, but keep in mind everything about the fantastical version, the playable version, as we go over these next 3. This is the first thing I want to compare, how they coincide to each other. Kobold Dragon Shield. These start out as normal kobolds and are appointed by a dragon and imbued with draconic power for the purpose of protecting the dragon's eggs. They are adept at hand-to-hand combat and usually wield a dragon scale as a shield. Checking out its stat block, we can see that it has a strength of 12, dexterity 15, constitution of 14, intelligence of 8, wisdom of 9, and a charisma of 10. First thing I'll note is that either this one rolled really bad stats or they have not plugged in their ability scores. They have dark vision, just like the playable counterpart, but they also take on Dragon's Resistance, giving them damage resistance based on the dragon type that they are defending. They also have Heart of the Dragon. This gives the Kobold Dragon Shield the ability to re-roll a saving throw against being frightened or paralyzed at the start of its turn, and on a success, it gains advantage on its next attack roll. Pack Tactics still exists. There were many out there upon hearing about kobolds being a playable race that Pack Tactics was going to be removed, but here it is. Pack Tactics gives the kobold advantage on an attack roll if at least one of its allies is within 5 feet and isn't capacitated. They also have sunlight sensitivity. In essence, this gives them disadvantage on attack rolls as well as on perception checks when they are in bright sunlight. The Kobold Dragon Shield gets 2 spear attacks. Jumping to the Kobold Inventor, things get a bit more interesting. These guys build their own improvised weapons to gain advantage in combat. The weapons don't last beyond 1 or 2 attacks, but they are effective while they last. This almost makes me think that the Kobbold Inventor could just as easily be an artificer. Their stat block shows us that they have a strength of 7, dexterity of 15, constitution of 12, intelligence of 14, wisdom of 10, and a charisma of 8. Like the others, this too has dark vision. They also benefit from pack tactics and also suffer from sunlight sensitivity. Now, here's where this one gets fun. They can use a dagger or a sling, or they can perform a weapon invention. They can either roll a d8 and use the corresponding result, or pick one of the following specifically to craft. Acid. They hurl a flask of acid, which causes acid damage. Alchemist Fire. They throw a flask of alchemist fire, which causes fire damage. Basket of Centipedes. They throw a small basket of centipedes, which causes a swarm of insects, in this case centipedes, to emerge and attack enemies. Green Slime Pot. They throw a small clay pot that is full of green slime, which causes acid damage and must be removed, else it will continue to cause damage. Rot Grub Pot. Another small clay pot. This one contains rot grubs. It can eat their way into flesh. Hint, fire will scare them away. Scorpion on a Stick. This one is actually a melee attack, but if it hits, it can cause poison damage. Skunk in a Cage. Guys, just no. I mean, this one may be difficult to roleplay, but trust me, you don't want to have anything to do with the south end of a northbound skunk. Getting a spray from this will incapacitate you. And finally, they can use a wasp nest in a bag. Yep, they can toss a bag of wasps that will act in a similar way as a bag of centipedes does, only it's wasps. And the third kobold here is the Kobold scale Sorcerer. These are kobolds that have mastered the art of arcane magic, usually acting as the mouthpiece of the dragon that it serves. This is in effect the dragon's #1 in command, and in fact the Kobold scale Sorcerer can issue commands to other kobolds. Looking at their stat block, we can see that they have a strength of 7, dexterity of 15, constitution of 14, intelligence of 10, wisdom of 9, and charisma of 14. Like the previous ones, they have dark vision, benefit from pack tactics, and suffer from sunlight sensitivity. Aside from their melee attack, they can also use Chromatic Bolt, choosing to shoot a magical bolt of their choice of either acid, cold, fire, lightning, poison, or thunder, which deals 2d6 plus 2 damage. They can also cast one of the following spells without the need of material components. Mage Hand, and I'm going to butcher this one, Prestidigitation, Charm Person, Fog Cloud, or Levitate. Now, at the top of this video, I also mentioned about wanting to compare this fantastical version of the Kobold to the ones found here in the Monsters of the Multiverse bestiary, and then compare them again. I want to also compare them to the Kobolds found in the Monster Manual, so that we can get a more complete picture and comparison. So in the Monster Manual, we have 2 types of Kobolds, Winged Kobold and, well, Kobold. Right off the bat, we can see a major change in their presentation and description. The Monster Manual presents them as being physically weak and easy prey. The Monsters of the Multiverse version, well, it presents them not exactly as being weak or easy prey. I mean, in a sense it does if you look at their overall stats. Here we have the Winged Kobold stat block with a strength of 7, dexterity of 16, constitution of 9, intelligence is 8, wisdom is 7, and charisma is 8. While the Kobold has a strength of 7, dexterity of 15, constitution of 9, intelligence of 8, wisdom is 7, and charisma of 8. Aside from the Kobold Dragon Shield and the fantastical player Kobold version that has the potential to have much higher stats, all of the Kobolds have a 7 for strength, really making each one of them fall under this category of physically weak, but it is the Monsters of the Multiverse book that just flat out avoids calling that term out specifically. So what does this all mean? Well, for starters, aside from having a playable race called Kobold, we now have 5 different monster types of kobolds to choose from when populating our game, and each of them benefits from pack tactics, each of them suffers from sunlight sensitivity. All except for our player version. Well, technically it gains the benefit of pack tactics, as does the rest of the party, only for the player, remember it's called Draconic Cry. However, we are left to our own devices as if sunlight will hinder them as they join our party. I think that the crafty DM and the crafty player have some work ahead of them to iron out any prevailing questions that Mordenkainen Presents Monsters of the Multiverse simply does not address. And that's not exactly a bad thing. I mean, as we mentioned at the top of this video, we've been playing as monsters for years. To see a little more of my musings on this, playing as monsters, check out this video, where we go over a few more concerns and solutions to this exact topic. And until next our paths cross, may you and your party gain advantage when a kobold in your party initiates its pack tactic, draconic cry.